My name is Chuki Chan, and today we're going to talk about how to write a conference proposal. Before I start, I just want to explain what is a conference proposal and why do you need one. So usually when someone runs an event, there are three ways that they get speakers. Either they reach out directly to the speaker and just invite them outright, or you propose yourself and say, hey, I want to speak. So when you suggest yourself, even then there are two ways, right? Maybe you just know that this meetup is always looking for people, so you just email the organizer and say, hey, I would like to speak. Can you give me a time to speak? Or they will have a formal process called a CFP, which is a call for proposals. And then they will have guidelines, they'll have a form, and then you submit. So today, that's what we're going to talk about. When conferences put out a conference proposal, how do you put together a talk and submit, and how do you increase your chance of being accepted? So I'm going to just show my little sticker before I move on to the mechanics of how do you do that. Because a lot of people, when I tell them that, hey, you should go give a talk because it's good visibility, it's a good way for you to solidify your knowledge, and then also that way people know who you are, so it makes it much easier looking for a job. I have not had a resume forever because my speaking profile is essentially my resume because people know what I'm doing, so I don't need to list where did I go to school and where did I work. So that's why we make stickers called I have something to say, and because I believe that everybody has something to say because your experience is unique. You have done something that in a particular circumstance, in a particular company, under certain constraints. So everybody has stories to tell. And this is stickers for the newsletter. If you are interested in following up, I would highly recommend that you subscribe to Technically Speaking, which is the newsletter. Cool. All right, so let's get started on my 5-step formula of how do you come up with a talk idea and then write the proposal and then submit and then deliver your talk, which is later. It's not a part of the formula. So what we're going to cover very quickly in the talk is brainstorm. So how do you come up with ideas? And then reverse engineer, meaning that you go look at existing conferences and look at the description of their talks and figure out, oh, that's what these conferences are looking for, and kind of feed your head with even more data beyond the brainstorming. And then writing your proposal, getting feedback on your proposal, and finally submit. All right, so that's the agenda. Brainstorm. I'm not going to talk a lot about it. There's a link for a 30-minute exercise, which there are papers on the table that we're going to go through. There are lots of questions to ask you to think about. What do you do that you know 80% of, but not 100%? You may want to dive deeper and things like that. It's a really good exercise, so we're going to do that after the talk. So that will give you kind of a lot of different things that you can do in terms of giving a talk. And then we go to the next phase, which is reverse engineer. What I mean is doing research on conferences. So what I recommend people to do is you can go search in your favorite search engines, let's say data science conference, if you're interested in data science, and perhaps you find one conference. So that is one place that you could be submitting your talk to. But what I recommend doing is going through this cycle, which is you go to that conference, you look at their list of speakers, and then most of the speakers actually will have a speaking profile page that lists all the places they have spoken at and all the topics. So you can go look at those conferences and then go back to the same step and then go to that conference and see the list of speakers and then just keep expanding that group of people and conferences that are in your area of interest. This is a good way to discover conferences, and also throughout you can go through and look at proposals and try to understand why are these talks accepted. And yes, this means that you should also have a speaking profile because it's a good place for people to tell whether you have something to say and also whether you have the experience of delivering a good talk. So even if you only have one talk, you should still start to put together a page somewhere that says, oh, okay, I gave this talk at this meetup, and then I gave this talk at this conference, and eventually you may delete the meetup stuff because it's like a resume, right? You want to keep it on one page. You don't want to just keep talking about how you were leading the drama club in high school. Right? That's kind of irrelevant after a while. So your speaking profile is kind of serves like a resume, so that when you are going to speak, then people can look at where else you've spoken at, what kind of topics you do. And the reverse engineer part comes in when you are looking at all the talks and you are trying to figure out. You read the talk, you read the title, you read the abstract, and maybe the bio of the speaker as well. And you want to answer this question. Will I come to this talk? And if so, why? So today we don't have time to go over that, but that's a good exercise to go through to understand how a good proposal looks like. So once you have all that, then it's time to actually take all these ideas and put them into action. You can actually write your proposal. So there are 3 parts, 3 things you're going to write. First, you need a title of your talk, and the goal of the title is grab people's interest, right? Because people are going through this long list of talks on the schedule, and they try to decide which one they're interested in. And also, when you propose a talk, people want to know whether this is a talk that is going to be interesting. And then abstract is when you sell your talk. So that's why the title of this slide is sales pitch. So why this talk? Like, why is this talk interesting? Why would people want to listen? And finally, the bio need to answer the question, why you? Because the talk could be very interesting, but maybe they don't want you to give the talk. Yeah, just to make sure that you remember, you're there to sell the talk, sell yourself. So the key here is to think about why. Like, why would the audience want to hear from you? Why would the organizers want you at the conference? So don't just go on and on and on about the actual content of your talk, but focus on why. So this is the formula that I use. I will start with the why. So why this topic is interesting, but be very specific. I have some examples after this, so I can go through that. So specify why this is interesting, and then in this talk, you will learn to list a few things, and then after which you will be able to do this. And notice that I say you, so you want to make it audience-centric, not in this talk, I will talk about this. So in this talk, you will learn. That way, people will actually want to come. So I'm going to use an example of my talk. So the way I start with the formula is, why do I want to give this talk? So I say, do you test? It's okay if you don't. Historically, the tools has not been stellar. So rather than have a generic testing is important, I'm actually saying, look, I understand why you haven't been testing, because in Android, it used to be really, really difficult to test, but it has changed, and I'm going to tell you kind of the latest and greatest. And then later I said, in this talk, you will learn, and then there's a bunch of very specific to Android things, because that's what grabs people's interest. Maybe they have heard about it, and then so they now know that if they come into this talk, these are the things that they will learn. And then by the end of the talk, you'll be itching to write some tests yourself. So kind of a cute little ending. You can also be a lot more specific about the learnings. And I also picked another one from, I think, PyCon, which is a data science conference. Again, the same formula applies. So first, talk about why this talk. So if evolutionary algorithms sounds great, but it may be intractable, so then in this talk, she's going to give you an overview of the different algorithms and how can you use them to solve your own impossible problems. So notice that the sell is pretty much the last sentence, which is the takeaway. If you come to my talk, you will learn these algorithms to solve your own impossible problems. So you kind of want to think about that when you write your proposal, almost up first, and then you want supporting evidence for that last sentence. You want to build up to that last sentence. So after you have a good proposal, you also need a good bio to support that. Again, I have a formula. So my name is Chuki Chen. So I put Chuki Chen is an Android developer. So it's just a very quick way to establish who I am. And then I want to tell people that I am good. I know what I'm talking about generally. And then I go specific about my experience that's relevant to this talk. And then optional, you can put some fun fact in, like I like snowboarding and things like that. I tend not to do that because I strongly believe that less is more. And let's look at an example. So one thing to notice about this bio is that you don't want to include your life history, because that's just boring and that doesn't really support your talk. A lot of people do that. Like, I went to college here and then I did this, I did that. And one other thing that I like doing is I like to include links so that I can point out something and people can know more if they're interested. It's kind of cheating because less is more, so there are not very many words, but then they can click and they can look at more things. So this is my bio. Chuki Chen is an Android developer with a passion in speaking and teaching, with talks at numerous conferences all over the world. So that's when I'm an Android developer, and the credibility part was that I spoke at many different conferences. And then I get to specific. This is actually a bio that I sent to Diana for this particular talk. So then the next thing I said was, she is the co-creator of the public speaking newsletter, Technically Speaking, link, and hopes to make the tech industry a better place by encouraging more underrepresented minorities to speak and be visible. So this is how I establish myself as someone that should be giving this talk. So if I'm giving an Android talk, this would not be my bio. I mean, the first 2 sentences is probably going to be the same, but I would not talk about technically speaking. I will talk about what apps I have written or what testing problem I have solved if I'm doing the testing talk. Again, I'm going to give a data science example as well. So it's the bio that supports the previous proposal that we saw. I'm not going to read it out loud, but again, it's the same formula, right? She say, I am, right, a PhD candidate. So, and then she talks about how she has studied everything from machine learning to database, ORM to Prolog, right? So that's kind of why this is relevant to the talk. And then she talks about trapeze, which is kind of the fun fact. And she also included a link that says, this is me, and if you're not satisfied with just this amount of information, you can go to my website and learn more. And the pro tip is you can write bios for each other. It's very difficult to toot your own horn, but get a friend that knows you and write for each other. It's much easier for some reason to say, Sarah, you are amazing, rather than I am amazing. So that's a very easy way to just, if 2 of you wanted to go to a conference to speak, it's a great way to just write each other's bio. After you did all that, you write your bio and you write your proposal. You want to get some feedback. Again, you want to answer the exact same question that you did when you went through the reverse engineering part. Why would I come to this talk? Is this even interesting? But this time, you want to read your own proposal and answer that question, and also get your buddy to do that. Have a fresh pair of eyes, because in your head, it's amazing, but what you write down on paper is not actually very convincing. So you want someone who don't know what this talk is about at all to read this and tell you whether he or she would like to come, whether they understand what they're going to get out of the talk. And then finally, submit. It's actually kind of the easy step because you did all the work already, right? You have a set of conferences that you found during the reverse engineer phase, and then you have your proposal written already. Don't think too hard. Submit, submit, submit. One thing that I keep telling people is that you can write a single talk proposal and submit to multiple conferences because the audience is different. It may be in a bit different geolocation. It may be different experience. The reverse is also true. It's okay to submit more than 1 talk to the same conference, just so that maybe the 1 talk that you wanted to give, 5 other people already submit proposals because it's a really hot topic. So hedge your bet and put another one in. But don't submit 10 because that will be just too much for the organizers. 2 is the sweet spot, like 2 kind of different talks but on the same topic. That will be my recommendation. So there you go. That's the formula. And hopefully that will help you in kind of understanding what it means to write a conference proposal. And remember, you just submit. Once you're done, just click submit already. So I have a bonus slide because all these actually applies to blogging as well, like the whole brainstorming, come up with ideas. And blogging is much more in your control because a lot of the times you submit to a conference is 6 months later, 3 months later. Like you don't really know whether they will take your talk or not. But blog, you can blog today, right? All these ideas that you generated, write it down, publish it. That also helps you when someone reads your proposal and say, oh, hey, she wrote a blog post about this. She already thought about this, so she can probably deliver a good talk. So I highly encourage you to, if you don't have a blog, start a blog. If you do have a blog, write it. And don't think too hard about, but this is not perfect. Like, this is so horrible. My sentences are so messy and clumsy. No. Just publish. It doesn't matter. Because to be honest, if you're not famous, no one's reading your blog. So, no one's judging you. I mean, it's actually a privilege to be judged. So just publish it already. And a list of resources that I actually posted this deck on Twitter. So if you follow me on Twitter, my handle is Chuki. You can open the PDF and then you can click through all the links. So no need to frantically write down all the links. So the last link is the newsletter, which we will also I'll probably end up sharing this on the newsletter as well. So everything I do kind of refer to each other. I blog about speaking, I speak about blogging, and anyway, you get the gist. So I'll leave you with this. Remember to submit early, submit often, and submit everywhere. Thank you.